Christopher Columbus's legacy, while important, is very commonly misunderstood. Even though he did not actually discover America like many believe, the result of his discovery started a trend of exploration in the West, and without a doubt had an effect on history. Here, we will take a look at Columbus's early experiences with the sea, what led him to sail on his famous voyage, as well as some stories of his travels. Christopher Columbus was born in 1451 in the Republic of Genoa, today northwest Italy. His interest in the sea began early on, causing him as a teenager to get a job on a merchant ship. He spent the next 10 years on trade ships, getting more and more familiar with the routes and more familiar with life at sea. After many trade expeditions to Africa, Columbus noticed something about the long route. To get to Asia, which was a massive center for trading, boats were sailing along the West African coast, which forced them to go all the way around the massive continent. Not only did this take a long time, it went through waters that were heavily controlled by other merchants. Columbus thought that there had to be a better way. An idea popped into his head that would later lead to his name going down in history. Instead of using this busy and hard-to-navigate route, why not sail right across the Atlantic? Convinced that the size of the Earth was much smaller than it actually was, Columbus believed that sailing west would provide a quick and easy way to travel, a straight shot to India and China, or so he thought. He brought this idea to officials in Portugal, hoping to get support in the form of money or ships so that he could test out his theory. But their nautical experts did not agree with Columbus's math on the distance of the journey, and they turned him down. He took his plan to Italy and then England, only to get rejected by both. Finally, he was able to find support in Spain from King Ferdinand of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile. Their experts agreed with Portugal, saying that Columbus's estimates about the journey were not accurate, and they advised the Queen to deny Columbus's request. But she saw opportunity to benefit from Columbus's plan. If he was right and successful in discovering a more efficient way of traveling, Ferdinand and Isabella could spread Catholicism across the globe, a goal that was very important to them. They were also very interested in the potential fame and fortune that could come from changing the trading market and quite possibly life itself. A contract was established in which Columbus was promised 10% of whatever riches were found, as well as the right to govern any lands that he came across. As the saying goes, on August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail on the ocean blue. He and his crew took off from Spain in 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. After months of sailing, they struck land, not in Asia like Columbus had thought, but an island in the Bahamas. There, he came across natives who were willing to trade with the sailors, and he took special notice of bits of gold that they were wearing. He and his fleet continued their journey to other islands, what now is Haiti and the Dominican Republic, meeting their leaders and getting to know their people. Since Columbus believed that the natives he had been interacting with were a community of people in India, he named them Indians and their island home the Indies. Excited by these discoveries and convinced that he had reached India, Columbus decided to head back to Spain to report. He left behind around 40 men and gave them the task of building a settlement. Back in Spain, the report Columbus gave of his findings, which we know now to be very exaggerated, were so pleasing to the king and queen that they sent him back just a few months later to continue with his exploration. Upon his return to the Indies, he was shocked to find that the settlement was destroyed and the men who had stayed behind were killed. Ignoring the fact that the queen was against slavery, Columbus forced the natives to rebuild the settlement, as well as search for gold. The natives' hatred for Columbus and the mysterious newcomers grew. Focusing only on the task at hand, he ignored the state of things and continued on with his exploration. He sailed around the larger Caribbean islands, convinced that he had discovered the outer islands of China, and took off yet again for Spain to share the news. It was not until his 3rd voyage across the Atlantic in 1498 that Columbus finally found mainland and began to explore what is present-day Venezuela in South America. Shortly after, the situation at the settlements had gotten so bad that settlers were threatening rebellion, claiming that Columbus had lied to them about the riches that the New World had to offer. Horrified by this situation, Spanish authorities came to the Indies to replace Columbus's governor, take away his power, arrest him, and bring him back to Spain in chains. Desperate to finish what he started and wanting to clean up his dirtied reputation, Columbus convinced King Ferdinand that one more voyage would finally deliver all the riches that Columbus had promised. In 1502, he began his 4th and final voyage, hoping that he would finally find a route to the Indian Ocean. But unfortunately, his attempt was as unsuccessful as the others. He died only a few years later back at home. Even though the story of Christopher Columbus's voyage to the West is more harsh and less peaceful than many people expected, and he did not actually discover the Americas, the outcome of his exploration is still very important. His trips inspired centuries of exploration and discovery and opened the door to a whole new, uncharted part of the world. It showed people how much there was left to learn about geography and how wrong their understanding of the planet had been. His discovery of land in the West led to an exchange of people, plants, animals, cultures, and even diseases that affected the entire world. For example, horses that were sent to the West from Europe allowed for the natives to hunt further away from their homes and eventually led to a more nomadic lifestyle. Also, food from the Americas such as potatoes, tomatoes, and corn became an essential part of Europeans' diets, making them more healthy and eventually helping their population grow. Without Columbus's curiosity of the unknown and his bravery to investigate unexplored waters, who knows how the course of history could have been changed and where we would be today.